your kid do that the detective called hilarious while arresting them? My 18-year-old son Justin got arrested for grand theft auto and destruction of property worth $70,000. The detective's voice was barely containing laughter when he called me at midnight. Ma'am, you need to come down here immediately. Your son and 5 other honor students just pulled off something I've never seen in 20 years on the force, and honestly, I can't stop watching the security footage. I threw on yesterday's clothes and raced to the police station while my mind kept circling back to Justin coming home 3 weeks ago with red eyes and locking himself in his room without explaining why. When I arrived, I found Justin sitting in the interrogation room covered in motor oil from head to toe with grease caked under his fingernails and his National Honor Society shirt completely ruined, but his jaw was set defiantly and he wasn't apologizing to anyone. The detective had a tablet in his hand and kept shaking his head while Principal Mitchell paced the hallway outside, looking absolutely murderous. Justin, I need you to explain what happened, I said quietly while the detective watched us. Justin looked up at me with those serious green eyes that had been red from crying 3 weeks ago. Mom, you remember Chris from calculus who tutored me freshman year when I was failing? I nodded because Chris was the kid who lived with different relatives every few months, but somehow always showed up to help other students. He aged out of foster care in January and has been living in his car in the school parking lot, but he still has a perfect GPA because he studies under the streetlights after his warehouse shifts end at 3 a.m. Principal Mitchell then entered the room wearing his suit and looking furious. Your son is facing 20 years in prison for grand theft auto, and I'm pressing full charges because this vindictive stunt has humiliated our entire school. The detective finally turned his tablet toward me, and I watched 6 kids using an engine hoist to lift car parts through a 3rd-floor window, while Justin directed them like a conductor, and my brain couldn't process what I was seeing as they reassembled piece by piece Mitchell's entire BMW inside his office where it could never fit back through the door. You took apart his car and rebuilt it in his office? I asked while trying not to let my voice crack. Why would you do something this insane? Justin's hands started shaking as he pulled out his phone. This is Chris 2 weeks ago when they announced the scholarship winner. He showed me a video of a boy in a torn jacket standing frozen as Madison's name was called, and you could see him mouth the words, "But I need this," before his knees buckled, and another student had to catch him from falling. Mitchell shifted uncomfortably as Justin kept talking with his voice getting harder. That scholarship was $200,000, and it included housing and meal plans, which means Chris would have had somewhere to live for the first time in his life instead of showering at the gym at 5 a.m. before anyone sees him. The detective leaned forward as Justin continued. Madison, whose dad owns those big fancy car dealerships, got the scholarship even though she has a 2.8 GPA and her family makes $400,000 a year. Chris wrote his essays in a car that doesn't have heat, and he got frostbite last February but didn't go to the hospital because he has no insurance. Other parents started arriving, including Madison's father in his designer pajamas, and I recognized several board members who controlled Mitchell's employment. The Future Leaders Scholarship is a merit-based award that I personally oversee to ensure the most deserving student receives this opportunity, Mitchell announced loudly for the arriving parents. Justin pulled up another photo of official committee voting sheets with shaking hands. All 5 committee members voted for Chris because the scholarship explicitly states it's for students below the poverty line. But you have final override authority, don't you, Principal Mitchell? Madison's father stepped forward aggressively, pointing his finger at Justin. My daughter earned that scholarship through her community service and leadership qualities, and if you don't drop this accusation, I'll sue your family for everything you have. Justin looked him straight in the eye and delivered the line that made everyone in the room go silent. Your daughter's community service was at your own dealership washing cars for photo ops, while Chris spent 4 years tutoring kids for free even when he didn't have anywhere to sleep. And that BMW in Mitchell's office has a purchase order dated 2 weeks before the scholarship announcement in your name, so you bought a homeless kid's future for the price of a car. Mitchell's face went white as a sheet. What else did you find in the BMW? The detective asked. Justin showed photos on his phone. The original committee votes in the glove compartment and printed emails where Madison's father offered to show his appreciation with a vehicle befitting an educator of Mitchell's caliber. Mitchell tried to leave, but the detective blocked him. Is that your BMW, sir? Mitchell couldn't answer because Madison's father had never transferred the title. 3 weeks later, Chris sent me a photo from his dorm room, which he was allowed to move into months early, holding his full scholarship letter. The message read, "I have heat and a bed and a future. Thank Justin for me." Mitchell was arrested for embezzlement. The BMW is still sitting in his former office.